I just wanted to ask you about one more thing. How important is having those IFTA stickers on the side of the truck when you come up next to it?
Yeah, for sure. And hey, we get it. IFTA's a big one. Our officers are looking for IFTA because it's a visual thing. I think you asked a piece, and I don't think I addressed this, but anything you can get stopped on the way here for, your folks are going to get stopped on the roadways. We talked about crash data earlier. We're data driven here at STP. They're data driven at the FMCSA. We're out to reduce crashes and fatalities. That's our number one goal. Our folks, Mr. Rick Todd here told me, he said, hey, everybody in the trucking industry thinks y'all got more people than what you do. Well, that's a good thing, right? We want visibility because visibility changes driver behavior, right? When y'all ride down the interstate and see a blue light flashing, do cars interact a little bit differently when they see that? Yeah. Waze is certainly helping. If any of y'all use Waze, man, the police pop up everywhere on Waze, right? When they're out sitting there watching and doing an inspection. We encourage that. We encourage our folks to get out there and be visible because, to be honest with you, I hope it's in Waze because what is that doing? That's slowing somebody down. We can't be everywhere all the time, but that slows somebody down at least in that little segment of where that little blue officer's at. So I'm thankful for Waze. Speeding, seatbelt, the cell phones, obviously there's a lot of distracting going on. The people in our state are getting killed from head-on crashes, rear-end collisions, fail to yield right away. It's a lot centered at distracted driving, right? And we're all guilty of distracted driving in some form or fashion, whether you got something going on at the house with your family, or whether you're thinking about coming into work and sitting on this panel, right, and answering some of these questions. Everybody's distracted at some point. Just encourage them to try to reduce that to a minimum. If you're using any of the rear-facing cameras, again, hop in and do some of those unannounced checks. Look and see what they're doing at red lights. A lot of folks, they'll think, hey, I'm stopped, I'm not in motion, I'm going to pull my phone out and send that text, or I'm going to call my mom or whoever. Don't do it then, right? Go hands-free. So, that's the main things, in addition to, of course, your obvious, your equipment violations, tires, load securement, things that are going to get an officer's attention. So anything that can be visible, the officers, they're looking for that.
So I have one more question for you.
Yes, sir.
I know we had a private conversation about this, and maybe something you want to kind of bring up too. We always like to, whether it's coming from us or it's coming from one of the agencies we partner with, the promotion, the betterment of the trucking industry is what we're all trying to do. And I know we had talked personally that you may have some opportunities for people involved in the trucking industry that you're planning for the next year. Are you at liberty to talk a couple seconds about what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. So has everybody here gone through a new entrant safety audit at some point? Do y'all have a DOT number issued? Okay. If you don't, if you're a motor carrier that's looking to get into the industry, you can be expecting to go through a safety audit. Our staff here on our motor carrier compliance unit will be conducting that safety audit. The easiest way to prepare for that, or even if you've got a friend who's looking to get into the industry, what we recommend is there's something called the Motor Carrier Safety Planner, courtesy of our federal partners, and they put that out. It's a great resource. It gives you a lot of documents that you can use, and I'm always of the motto, if it's not broke, we don't need to fix it, right? So if they've got an accident register, if they've got any document that you might need to internally keep for an audit or an investigation, just go pull it straight off of there. And then you don't have to create something custom on your own. So we're planning on hosting some events. We're going to try to do it once a quarter for anybody who's coming in as a new entrant or even folks who are brand new in. And it will be a combination probably of something similar to this at various locations around the state, as well as a virtual capacity. I didn't like COVID at all, but if there's one thing we learned from COVID, we can certainly do better with the virtual option to allow people some flexibility as you continue to allow the wheels to keep turning and get that freight from A to B.
Good. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Keeping kind of on the same lines with the DOT stuff, I'm going to turn to Jimmy and Carlene here now. Let's talk. Some questions came in about that FMCSA, that periodic, that annual inspection, and kind of what it is, who are certified inspectors, that type of stuff, how you guys look at doing those, and what would mean as far as like the pre-trip, the DVIR, the en route, those type of inspections that people are doing? Is there ways to help them do that? Is there things that you offer maybe through website to show them that? What can you tell us about those inspection part for you guys?
Good afternoon, everyone. I would probably go back to, inspection is going to be part 396 of the regulations, and I would probably go back to what Captain Holmes has said. We have a wonderful tool out there, which is a safety management planner. On that website, it's like the quick notes of the regulations. I know the regulations can be thick, and it can be quite interesting. But if you want the short version, go to our website, take a look at Part 396. There's a copy of a roadside, an annual inspection on there, what's required, who's required to be able to do that. So a lot of that information can just be found on our website. And then if you do have any questions, if anything seems a little hard or difficult to understand, then you're welcome to reach out to us, and we'd be glad to help you in any way that we can. If you have any questions today, you need one of our investigators or myself to reach out to you, then just let me know before I leave, and we'll be glad to reach out to you on whatever the topic is, in 396 or anything else.
So as far as that inspection goes, do you have on your website a list of providers who are those certified inspectors, or how would they go about if they needed to do that and find them?
No, sir. Unfortunately, we don't promote, different establishments.
Mm-hmm.
So all we can tell you is that, hey, Google it. Find your qualified and certified inspectors that can do the inspections for you. Because I would hate to give you the name for someone and then the inspection doesn't turn out to be what it should be. So let's Google it, use our resources, and find someone that's really certified and that can do the inspections for you.
Does that certification come from training given by you folks?
No, sir, it does not.
Okay.
In the regulations, it says that if there's a combination of experience, education, so you have to meet that criteria.
Okay.
But we don't actually certify anyone to perform the annual inspection.
Okay. So, correct me if I'm wrong though, but somebody would have to be classified as a certified inspector, or is there, how do they, if somebody here says, hey, I'd like to do that and become that, can they be that go-to person for their agency, for their company? Or do you have to be separate? Is that considered a conflict that you couldn't be the certifier inside your own company?
Well, you could be, it's possible. But once you go to 396 and you look at what the criteria truly is, then you can determine who's certified.
Mm-hmm.
And then, your company or someone else would like to use them, that's no problem.
Okay.
But I would ask for a documentation that they're certified.
That's what I'm saying. Is there a certificate that they should show you, or something they get from some governing body that says they can do
There's
that?
actually a form that's on the safety management plan,
Okay.
that they can go to, you can actually print that form off.
Okay.
And you can have the inspector to fill that out, and then you can keep it on file.
Okay. Perfect. Let me look back here at my notes with that. So the other side of that with the DOT inspection, they want to be clear, and this was a question, those required to have that DOT inspection is any commercial vehicle that is over 10,000 pounds, GVW, 16 passengers or more, or hazmat. Is there anyone else that would need that inspection outside of that group?
Any vehicle that has a gross vehicle weight rating of over 10,001 pounds is required to have the annual inspection.
Okay.
So you're going to.
Or if it's a hazmat below that,
Right.
and 16 passengers or more as far as passenger carrying. Okay. Good. All right.
And just real quick, I'll add to that. If you're intrastate, right, if you're gonna stay in the state of South Carolina, then that qualifier on that FAI would be 26,001 pounds, right, needing a CDL. Because unless you're crossing state lines doing interstate travel, interstate commerce, then you're not regulated by us, the State Transport Police in South Carolina, using the FMCSRs or the regulations, okay? So your small vehicles, light vehicles, under 26,001, under 26,001, unless you're in interstate commerce, you're not subject to an inspection here in South Carolina intrastate, okay? Just to clarify that.
All right, thank you. And this may also be a question for YouTube as well. If not, somebody else, please jump in. If you have a driver that is flagged by the medical examiner for glucose in their urine, what would be the protocol for getting that driver approved? What would they need to do if that stopped that? Anybody in the panel?
I didn't get clarification on what you mean by glucose. Everybody says it like diabetic.
I'm assuming that was the question. I don't know, did the question, it came from the field there? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, diabetic. They've just been deemed a diabetic.
So FMCSA relies on the medical examiner for the certification process. So ultimately, FMCSA gives that doctor guidelines to follow through. It's up to each medical professional that do that examination to determine if that applicant meets those minimum requirements. So I'm gonna refer to Cindy, let her talk to you about what the waiver system.
That's why we got a discussion group.
If we receive that waiver, it's notated on their driver's record, and we add their medical information on there, and it's notated in their file, and we'll get that information from Esther about if it's a diabetic waiver they received. So we note that on their record with the dates of that waiver that is.
So Ms. Shirley, then if the doctor sends that in, then they are restricted from driving until that waiver is completed. Would that be a fair assessment, or what's the time turnaround for them to submit that and get the approval that they're okay?
If sometimes the waiver waives their requirement that they can still drive, but they're being monitored by their doctor, and they have to get, maybe it's a 6-month medical card that'll state that the waiver is good for that period of time.
Okay. Does that help answer your question? Good.
And those credentials will carry a special restriction to show you that they have some type of waiver.
Good, thank you. Now this may be a federal question, this may be anybody here on the panel. The question came up about electronic logging devices and the accuracy of them, how they ping, could you give us some insight on the ELDs and what you think of them, or how reliable they are, what your thoughts are?
The ELDs, I have found them to be very useful versus the paper logs. I don't have any statistics as to how accurate they are versus paper logs because it's driver manually the driver's using it. But the ELD is connected to the ECL, so we're hoping that it's more accurate, that it's giving you the true status of the driver.
Okay.
So far I've had good experiences with them. Are there sometimes when they break down or they don't work exactly as they should? Of course, but that's kind of anything. So my experience has really been good.
Okay. Go ahead, Officer.
I'll add to that. Overall experience with ELD, certainly positive. We're down here teaching Part A, which is the driver portion. When our officers come in to get certified, we're teaching hours of service right now, and their eyeballs are about to start popping out of their heads because hours of service gets a little complicated. But here's what I will say on ELDs, okay? When the ELD, as Ms. Glover said, is functioning properly, it is your friend. However, when they're not functioning, everybody, I got 2 cell phones. If one of them goes down, you go use the other one, right? Technology fails us every day. The thing that I would keep in mind is that you're relying on your driver and you're relying on your back office person. So whether that's a safety manager, whether that's you as a company owner, whoever that person is that's also monitoring that data, just to keep an eye, right? From the roadside perspective, things that we're seeing a lot of falsification with ELDs, just in the sense that if I turn the cell phone off, right, as we learned in a recent trial in our state, can you be pinged or not pinged? You see what I'm saying, right? So we've got folks that like to turn devices off, and they become what we in the industry call a ghost driver, right? You don't just magically go from Florida to Columbia to deliver a load and you got no co-driver, okay? So if I can help you help them monitor that, right? If you know they're not a team operation and you know that they're maybe turning that device off, they're unplugging it from the ECM, which is the brain of the engine, and they're unplugging that little port to the left of the steering wheel. Please don't let them do that. It's going to cause y'all a lot of heartache when they run into one of our officers. You know, the other thing would be dual accounts. If any of y'all are going to allow owner-operators to come in with you, we see a lot of dual accounts. You might have Stephen Holmes 1 and Stephen Holmes 2. And when Stephen Holmes 1 runs out of hours, who do I go to? I go to Stephen Holmes 2 and say, hey, that guy's got some hours left, so we're going to keep trucking, right? That's not a plug for them. But you follow what I'm saying, okay? So that would be my suggestion on that. The other part with ELDs, what we see a lot of is just drivers have a lack of education on what they need to present at the roadside. The main thing to keep in that truck, 8 days worth of paper logs, blank paper logs, okay? Because as I mentioned, if this cell phone goes down, we're expecting to see the driver switch over to paper, right? And reconstruct those previous 7 days worth of activity. All right, I see some of those looks right now like, really? Hey, I get it, okay? I can barely remember what I had for lunch yesterday, okay? My wife has to keep me straight all the time. So here's what I can tell you on that. If you're backing it up on the back office system, and you realize that ELD's gone down, if I drop this and the screen cracks out and it goes black, if whatever happens, right? He forgot his charger. Legit, right? It could happen if she forgot her charger and then they're out there rolling around. Send them an email, right? Once they get some service back on their phone to get it charged back up, send them an email with those previous 7 days of logs, and then tell them, hey, recreate today. But you should be able to remember what you did today on the paper log, right? So at least 8 days worth of a paper log. You throw a blank log in the truck, you're fine. An instruction guide on how the system operates. A malfunction guide in case the system goes down. And if you throw those things in the truck, whether they're physical or they're actually stored in the phone, you're going to receive a lot less violations. Because with ELDs, those are some of the most common violations that we see is just drivers not knowing where this stuff's at. Again, keep a book, keep a registration packet. Officers love organization. A lot of them are neat freaks, right? They want their patrol car a certain way and everything to be all shiny and looking good. You hand them that book and everything's in order and everything's straight, your life's going to be a lot easier when it comes to a lack of violations.